Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Op Podcast. My name is Dave Kamaides, and I'm your host. And I'm really excited coming to you from Chicago, from Cinecity Studios, Chicago, where I am attending and we're recording this live at Filmscape Chicago. Filmscape Chicago brings together filmmakers, artists, technicians, and students for networking, education, and training in free classes and on their trade show floor, which we're having here this weekend. Really excited to be here in front of an audience and actually streaming on the web and all that good stuff. And today we're going to do something a little different. I've got two people on the show. We are going to be talking to Gary Malouf, who is the operator on the Bear. Usually when you listen to this podcast, you hear me say all the things that they've worked on, but the truth of the matter is the only thing I need to say is the Bear, because the work that these guys do is so incredible. And Matt Rozek, who is the key first AC on the Bear also. Guys, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
There's like people lined up outside the door to come in here. This is fantastic. Has anybody in the audience ever seen The Bear? Okay. So another thing worth mentioning is The Bear seems to be about Chicago, I think, if I'm correct. And you guys,
it's set here.
It's set here.
Yeah.
And you guys are local to Chicago, so that's one of the great things about this. So just to set the table, Gary and I have worked several times together. I've been more than blessed to work with him as a co-camera operator. And Matt and I just met, but I've heard about you through Gary. So tell me about the Bear. And by the way, will the Bear itself ever come back? Because I was excited about that.
That's a great question. I don't know that even if I knew the answer, if I'd be allowed to tell.
Oh, NDA.
Yeah.
Okay.
No narcs.
So tell it. What's it like to work on a show like that?
I mean, it's really, it's a joy. And I mean, we're lucky. I mean, because I know how many times have you worked on stuff that isn't great or no one cares about. Or,
everything I work on is
great.
unbelievable.
Yeah. So, I mean, just to be a part of something that people can connect with and we have fun making, I mean, it's a dream come true. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'd second that. It's, probably like one of the most enjoyable times I have going to work that I've ever experienced. We're lucky that we've got it's great material, and the crew just as a whole really gels and gets along. So it's a joy to see people in the morning.
That's the best.
Yeah,
couldn't be better. And you guys both started on the pilot?
No, you didn't do the pilot.
I did not do the pilot.
Yeah.
Oh, so Matt, could you leave for 20 minutes and then come back? Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Matt. So you came in on episode 2 then?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I think we reshot some stuff from the pilot, didn't we?
I think we reshot one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But it was,
I guess
so technically
I had a small hand
one
in
scene,
the pilot.
one scene in the
yeah.
pilot.
Okay, so your fingerprints are in there.
Yeah.
So Gary, then, has the shooting of the show progressed from the pilot? I mean, I know there are detours where you do different things for story reasons, but has it progressed since the beginning?
I think the energy has stayed the same.
Okay.
But I think that it definitely, just as we went more and more down the line doing it together, everything just got more and more efficient, streamlined,
Yeah.
And I think just the story itself and all the actors and everybody just gets more and more comfortable. So, that first pilot was a blast, but it was definitely as chaotic as the pilot itself.
Is there
Yeah, well, we just, you just only have so much time to do things,
Yeah.
and we were working in practical locations. We had that kitchen was really tiny in the pilot. And
So was the pilot in an actual kitchen and then you were on a set after that?
Correct, yeah. So once this show got picked up, episode 2 rather, we were on a stage.
Okay.
But the first day, the first episode was, the tiniest little.
It feels like it.
Yeah, not the easiest corners, and all that. And then when they made the set, they were nice to widen it out for us. A little bigger.
Yeah. And I mean, was there a decision from the beginning, okay, this is going to be handheld, this is going to be Ronin, this is going to be how do you make those decisions?
I didn't really have much to say in the beginning of it because, they were kind of finding it. So we did a lot of remote head stuff on the pilot and a lot of just dolly work. And, so there was no handheld in the pilot. And then
there was no handheld in the pilot?
None.
Seriously?
Nope.
Wow.
Yeah.
I totally would have. That actually says something because there's so much energy going on. It's incredible.
Yeah, I was on Mike Pennick, who was my dolly grip, and we were on a Cobra dolly on a Moses head for a lot of it, and it was there was a lot of us just white knuckling it because.
So Mike was slamming into stuff, and you were in another room going, "Mike, are you okay? You okay?"
No, I was definitely in the room.
Okay.
I'm not good enough to be that guy that's like in another county doing the wheels.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I don't know how anybody does. I don't know how he can do it half the time, even if he's just around the corner on focus. I need to be there.
Are you usually like out of line of sight because of what's going on?
It kind of depends where we are.
Yeah.
A lot of times,
Yeah.
like if I can be, especially like when he's on the wheels, like if we're on the Ronin, I like to be kind of next to him just so we can. It's
Yes.
easy to talk about stuff. I mean, like we wear headsets and things, but I like to.
Yeah.
It's nice to be able to see him and to just be able to like lean over and say something.
Yeah.
If we need to.
So-
but I mean, I'm not opposed, especially like Thursdays and Fridays, like later in the day. I'm not opposed to being like outside the set.
Yeah.
Close, like you're in your car. pulling
Yeah,
focus.
exactly.
He does generally stick pretty close to me, but there's a lot of times too where it's just like the nature of the shot or whatever. Like he just can't, he's got to hide.
So since we're talking about you guys working together, one of the questions that I had was this, and I mean, I'm at a disadvantage because I'm seeing the cut, right? So I'm guessing on a lot of stuff, obviously, but it seems to me like what is going on in that show is you have an amazing operator, an amazing focus puller, and you guys are making your own choices sometimes. Like it seems like I mean, we talked about in the big oneer in episode 7 in season 1, which is amazing. On both of you did incredible work. How there were choices on focus and there were choices on framing that, like, you're probably half the time, or I'm asking you, are you going, oh, Gary's going for that, or you'll go, oh, he's going there. I'm gonna, how does that work?
I think, I mean, especially like specifically for some of those oneers, like I mean, for sure there's a framework. I mean, there has to be for stuff like that. But I know that like on those, we went through them 3, 4, maybe 5 times. But like each time he'd do something a little bit different, and it was always like the first time through was always like, okay, this is pretty much what we planned and what we said we're going to do. And then the second time, Gary's like, oh, that last time I saw him going that way, and I was like, oh, that looks good. And so he'd follow him, and like, yeah, it's, I kind of watch, and that's why, I mean, it's nice to be in view of him, because I can see, if he's starting to lean one way, and I'm like, okay, I think he's going to go that way.
Okay. Yeah.
And so, I mean, it kind of loosens up,
Sure.
I think, the more time that we have, which on this show isn't always a lot. Like, it's usually 3 takes is a lot. Like, we joke that
Really?
our seconds, like, have forgotten all numbers above 3.
Yeah, I don't know how to write them anymore.
That's pretty much how high it
The
goes.
slate doesn't go that high.
It doesn't, yeah.
But Gary, are there times where you're? I mean, well, actually, I know this from watching it. I mean, we were talking about. By the way, has everybody seen episode 7, which is the 17-minute oneer that Gary and Matt did? It's insane. And I'm not going to tell the whole story, but the first time that I met Gary before the show came out, he went, yeah, when it comes out, I did this handheld shot. It'd be kind of cool if you look at it. And I'm like, it's not just a handheld shot. It's incredible. But there's a moment where 2 of the characters are, and Gary's across, I forget the character's name. I call him Cousin, but
Yeah, Richie.
Richie,
Yeah.
and maybe to Sydney, I think.
Yeah.
And there's clearly focus choices going on with where you're going, and I'm wondering, was that Matt? Did you discuss
That was
it? Or is that the
definitely
moment?
Matt. That was definitely Matt. You're talking about when Sydney's telling him he's a loser.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly right.
That was definitely Matt. And I was like just kind of hanging in because it was, their heights are different, and you know how it is. And then, and we're also in a oneer, so there's no coverage.
Yeah, he's got to be.
Yeah, and he's a taller guy, and she's more normal sized.
And and actually, as I remember, you're across him.
I was across him, yeah. So I had to keep like a very low angle up at him to hold his head height.
Yeah.
And then she was there yelling at him, and I think the first one you probably pulled maybe a couple times back and forth to him.
I think.
But when she really started like getting into him and yelling at him and telling him that he's a loser and like she feels bad for his daughter because he's a loser and like really like hurtful stuff, he just decided to pull focus to Eben, who plays Richie, and never go back. And it's like we didn't talk about it, I don't think, really.
No, I don't think so.
You just kind of did it.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of trying to hold the frame because I knew that for him it was his time to make those choices.
Yeah.
Because if I was trying to do a little bit of this, it could have turned into a disaster. And with the nature of that shot, it's like we can't take crazy chances that aren't going to work because then this is all for nothing.
That's the thing, because like when I'm because I think the first take or 2, I probably either stayed on her in the back or went back and forth, and I think that time like it was just one of those times, and that's also like the other huge joy of this show is like watching some of these actors too, because they're amazing.
Absolutely.
They're incredible
Yeah.
performances. So it's like, just seeing him there and like watching all this stuff hitting him, I'm like, I think I'm just gonna stay here. And then like that's always the moment when like my heart starts beating out of my chest, and I'm like, oh god, this is like minute 8. If Chris hates this,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be in big trouble.
Well,
And I think-
that's why I was going to ask you about that. It isn't a 30-second shot where they're like, that sucks, do it again. You're like, you are
Right.
8 minutes into this shot.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, is that just basically, I mean, it sounds like it's just you're watching the story and you're like, you know what, the story's here, I'm going here.
Totally.
And everybody, but it seems like a lot of that is from both of you just commitment and trust, right?
It's definitely trust on my end because, and it's trust in every direction, I think. You probably feel the same way,
Totally.
where it's like, Chris and Drew trust us to make decisions like that, but they also trust the actors to just...
You're talking about Chris, the showrunner,
Chris
director,
and
Drew,
Drew is our DP, yeah. And, they trust us to kind of make those choices on the fly and also, not go too off the reservation. And also the actors they have the trust from those guys, especially Chris, to kind of take it where they feel it needs to be taken. And then they trust us to be there when they're going to take it somewhere that maybe we didn't expect or talk about or whatever. And I think that's like the perfect example of it, where it's like
amazing.
you can see all those words landing on Richie and Eben's performance is so strong that it's just like there's no, you want to be with him in that moment because that's the story. The story is him having to deal with this person hitting him with some truths about himself that he probably doesn't want to hear, especially in that moment.
Wow. So since you were talking about the trust in Chris and Drew, is it do they not give you specific? I mean, I'm sure on some shots they do, but for the most part, do they just sort of go, all right, here's the story, here's how we're covering it. You guys then take it from there, or is Chris very specific when he's directing anyway?
I'll let you start that one.
Chris has and that's the beauty of Chris is that like he comes in knowing exactly what he wants, like out of the actors, out of the scene in general. A lot of times he's got specific shots. What he says is not always necessarily what he wants, which is a real testament to Drew and Gary, is that they've known Chris for a long time. 10,
How long have you guys
15
all
years.
worked together before?
It's 15 or so years.
But I mean, they are experts at listening to what, Drew and Gary are experts at listening to what Chris says he wants and interpreting it to give him what he actually wants. Because it's not always, what he says is not exactly what he wants. And they are very good at finding the shot that he wants within his descriptions. So it's like, there's definitely a starting place there, but like as far as like, when we're talking like focus things, there's a lot of times where I'll go up to directors or DPs and be like, I see what we're looking at here. Do you want me to do this or that? And like that's the beauty of working with Chris and Drew, is that they have like complete trust in everybody on the crew, really. I mean, they're very, they've seen what we can do, especially over the last, 3 seasons, and there doesn't always need to be a lot of talking through it. Like we can come in and, in the morning, Chris is always there like 3 hours early, but these guys show up and Chris is like, all right, here's what we're going to do.
Yep.
Boom, 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 boom. And he walks out and they take 10 minutes to set it up and we're rolling like 10 minutes after call. Every single day.
We started doing the shot clock, which was fun. We would get a half-hour pre-call, and then we would walk in and we would have our little powwow in the morning, and then they would literally on the clock in the kitchen put the countdown for first shot, 25 minutes from now.
Wow.
Which is call time. So like we were usually rolling, if our call was 7, we were rolling at 7:01.
We weren't quite that way, but that reminds me of ER. It was all overhead lit, and they'd turn on the lights, and we'd just go. So, but it wasn't quite that. I want to back up because I wanted to ask you actually something, Matt. What you were talking about, making those choices, right? Mm-hmm. And historically, I don't know what the word is. That's not something that every AC, most ACs don't come on a show and go, I'm going to focus where I want. And I'm wondering, were you that person, or did you come on this show and it was a process, and are you screwed when you move on to the next thing?
I take those chances at very specific opportunities. I'm generally not that person. Usually I'm the person who's like, I'll go to the director or DP and be like, what do you want in
Yeah.
this scene? And I'm happy to do that. But like I said, in this crew, it's like there's just a wild amount of trust among everyone, and so they're very willing to let me make choices like that. And like it's something that I take kind of seriously on this one. Like I love reading all the scripts. Like I want to know what's going on. I'll sit down and I'll read the sides every morning just to like refresh myself, just so that like I can understand, in a moment like that where it's not about Sydney losing her mind. It's about what she's saying to Richie, and I know where this is going down the road, and so like all that kind of stuff informs those choices that I'm able to make.
Well, and everything you're talking about is it's storytelling, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I always say is like Gary's a
Comes down to
storyteller,
it.
you're a storyteller. I mean, the food stylists are storytellers, all that stuff.
For sure.
And Gary and I were once talking about the fact, and I'm wondering, what you both have to say about this. Hopefully, you'll agree with it. Is you only get that gold if you're willing to step out on the edge and fail, right?
Totally,
It's like,
yeah.
I mean, so are you sometimes going like, I'm going to go for this, but I have no idea if this is going to be right.
Totally. There was a show that I was working on like pre-COVID, and it was very much a similar situation where there's two characters in frame, different depths, and the thing that one character was saying they were talking about one thing, and to me at least, as far as like the story and the script was concerned, meant something completely different to the person who was hearing it. And in that instance, I did something very similar. Where I pulled focus to the person that those words were affecting, and we did the take. I mean, it wasn't like a 20-minute take, but we did the take and we finished it, and the director came over to me and was like, "What the fuck? Why didn't you focus on the guy who was talking?" And I was like, "Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
I won't do that again."
I'm on a show 3 years from now that hasn't started yet. Yeah,
So
but
it doesn't always work out.
well, that's why
so
I asked,
great.
are you in trouble when you move on to the next thing?
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I don't know, we'll see.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. Going back to the big shot that you did, episode 7. And by the way, anybody who's listening or anybody in the audience, if you go to theop.io, there's something called The Breakdown, where some of the best camera operators right here sitting next to me will break down shots that they've done. And Gary has done both that big one and in season 2. I don't know if that's out yet. Maybe it's not out. But along with others, and it's film school. I mean, it's unbelievable. You should check it out. But that shot was 17 minutes long. Did we say it was 17 minutes long?
Something like that. Yeah.
It wasn't like it was 20. I mean, whatever. But what's the mental head game of doing a shot that big? And like you said, I mean, to me, it's always like if you stumble at 30 seconds, you're like, all right, we can back up and start over again. But then you get to like the 4-minute mark, and then the horrible part to me is always you get to like 16 minutes, and you're like, I don't care if this building burns down.
Yeah.
I'm not. I mean, how do you
Finish this?
How do you keep that? How do you keep that out? How do you not let it affect you?
I don't know. I think it's just like such a testament to like the preparation that we all, like from the top down, and just, everybody's so on their game. You don't want to be the one that's not on their game.
But how do you let that not get in your head and mess with you?
I don't know. For me, it's the work. I mean, I think like just staying in it and just, like
being in the moment.
if you're, I mean,
Just kind of like looking for that like next choice to make. Like if you're gonna stick with what you did the last time, or if you're gonna choose to do something else, or just like for me, it's like I don't know, kind of taking it like. Especially with that one, it was great because it was such a clear series of beats. It was kind of like, okay, we made it through this piece, and then we do the transition, and then we're kind of locked into the next piece, and then there's a transition, and so like, I feel like that helped a little bit because you can always like, kind of put a little mental check mark there and be like, okay, I did that, made it, moving on to the next thing.
Yeah, I think it was just so much of like, it is this one long giant shot that's one scene, but there's so many moments within it, and treating each of those as its own thing is so, that was really vital for me, just like knowing where I was going to go next. I had like those little mile markers, where it was like, okay, now we got to go through the door, now whatever.
There's just a ladder. It's
and I think it's so much of it too is just like, it's theater. That's the thing that was so nice about it, because we don't really ever get put in that space.
No.
So for us to be with them, where it was like, you have your moment with an actor, but they're going in the background and you're carrying on. They're still acting.
And you told me they're also actually still preparing.
Yeah, and there was real chickens and all that stuff back there. Yeah, so they all
hide anything.
And like when like Richie's does the fries, he's actually doing the fries, and they were really on the grill and making beefs and doing all that stuff, and
it's amazing.
It was all going on in the background, and they had to stay in it, which I think was kind of cool because you didn't have that second to. To check out.
Yeah.
You were in the background, you had to be listening because you had to know, at that point I need to go do this or whatever.
Yeah.
So like everybody was on their toes in that regard, which I think really helped because it became more like theater where it's like cues are so important and all that stuff is just kind of on you.
Yeah.
There's no AD in there. And quite honestly, I mean, that set wasn't the biggest set in the world, but we saw everywhere. So the only people that were in there were me, my dolly grip, and the boom guy, and that's it. And he was outside. Everybody's outside.
I'm actually surprised that there was even a boom in there. I don't know.
Oh my God!
We talk about that all the time.
Who's your boom operator?
Joe Campbell.
Yeah, who I mean, to this day, I don't know if he's invisible or what.
Because I think we went through that 5 times.
Well, yeah, 5, right?
I think we saw the boom maybe once.
Yeah.
In 5 takes.
Yeah.
He's incredible.
Are there times when you're panning through him and he's just like making fries? So it looks. I mean,
I don't know.
I didn't even think about that because I mean, obviously, I don't know what that space is, but to watch that show.
Yeah.
I don't even know how you did what you did.
It's one of those things too, where like, one of the luxuries for sure was the fact that it was the end of the season. If we had to do that early on, it would have been way more challenging.
Yeah, okay.
But I think the fact that we were all in the rhythm together and we knew the set really well and the actors were comfortable with what they were doing and like that definitely was a big part of why it was successful. But yeah, I think that just kind of getting to the point where it was like, okay, like you guys have it now. So like once I knew the path, then we could kind of start working on where it's like, okay, like this is where I think you can get in here. This time I'm going to have to do this and it's going to be a 180. So you guys got to duck and then you got to meet me on the other side or whatever, like you got to let me go for a second and then
Did you shoot that whole thing in one day?
Yeah, we were done by lunch.
Yeah.
That's insane.
We started at 7 and we were done at noon.
I mean, to be fair, they had several days.
Yeah.
The actors had a couple of days of rehearsal.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
so. They were dialed in.
Yeah,
So,
they were dialed in. I think you had a day where you walked through it with them.
Yeah. If I remember it correctly, and you can fact check me because my memory might not be great, but however many weeks it was before that, they were like, okay, we're thinking about doing this. And we were all kind of like, okay, sure. Yeah. And then sure enough, they actually wanted to do it. And, when we kicked around, can we do it on the Ronin? Can we do it on do we need to bring a Steadicam guy in? And then it kind of just got to the point where we're like, there's no other way. We just don't have room for anything but a guy with a camera on his shoulder. Yeah. So once that got settled, then they rewrote the script, if I remember correctly. Like not really like rewrote it, but rewrote it more like in a format that was like for a table read, so they could get the vibe of like, because Chris isn't real big on screen direction in his scripts generally. Oh. So like this one leaned in a little bit more to it, just so they had an idea of where to go, kind of thing. So I think they did that the one day while we were shooting still.
Yeah.
And then the next day was like some glorified insert day for food for us, while with the actors and me and everybody did a table read and kind of walked through it. And then we had a thing that was set up earlier in the year I think it was for Drew's purposes, just for like lighting and whatnot, or like he had like laminated like a plot of the
overhead
of the stage. Yeah. So I was sitting there with a dry erase marker like a psycho as they were doing the table read, being like, okay, that's them there.
I'm going to interrupt for a second and say, if you watch the breakdown that Gary did on this, you'll see that laminated thing.
Yeah.
It's meaningless.
because
he's going around like over himself so many times. I don't know if it meant anything to you at the end, but you look at it, you're like.
It was, I mean, when I actually looked at the finished product, it is complete nonsense.
No, it's like this person shouldn't not only be camera operating, but like shouldn't be driving.
Yeah, exactly. But it was me just talking out loud. When my wife got home from like she was out to dinner with the girls, and she came home one night, and it was the night before we were gonna shoot it, and I was at the kitchen counter like full mad scientist mode, and she was like, "What are you working on?" And I was like, "Not now."
And are you and basically, but are you mentally walking through the space and going, okay, now I'm coming down to the fries, now he's got his line, and I'm going to come over here?
Yeah, I mean, I have Chris Dame, who's our B camera operator, who's great, was obviously, not working during all this. So it was kind of like at first we were going to be on the comms together, like he was going to be like, my offensive coordinator, where he was going to be in my ear being
What's
like,
next?
You're going here next, you're going here next. Yeah. And then it ended up that I just didn't really need that because I had gone through it so much. But I still have a list from him that's on the back of the script that's like, me and him are the only two people that can understand this. Maybe you.
Oh, you gotta send me that. I want to see
but
it.
it's like,
fantastic.
this was good. This handoff was good. This over was good. Like all those things.
Wow.
And so I was thinking about it like that, where it was like, okay, not only like do I need to know where I need to go, but I also need to know, okay, I need to be over them, and then I need to be ready to follow them, and then there's a handoff here, and then like knowing, because I knew that if anything like like I thought about it like monkey bars, where it's like I got to be able to grab the next one, or the shot ends.
Yeah.
Because if there's nobody, I need a reason to go places.
You miss one transition, and the whole thing is
any unmotivated camera movement was going to really stand out.
It kills it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you and I have talked about oneers. It's like a shark. If it doesn't keep moving with purpose, it dies. Right?
Yeah.
Just you have to. Monkey bars is a great example.
Yeah, because it's like you're just hanging on. That's like how I felt about it. So it's like I just need someone to hang on to and take me to the next thing.
It's amazing.
And so that's all I was thinking about when I was going through all that. And then I think I don't know how you probably more were worried about like how is everybody gonna how are we gonna do this logistically?
A little bit. I mean, not having to have only knowing there were only going to be like 3 people in there was, I don't know. I didn't have to move around in there, so that was fine. I could just stay outside.
I'll tell you, from a focus point of view, one of my favorite moments of that episode is the last image, because Carmi, what is it? He throws something down, or he pushes the thing over, and then he walks out of the doors.
Yeah.
And Gary goes with him, and then you focus to the rules of the house instead of taking him out the door.
Yeah.
And it was just such a great coda to that whole.
I think it's the ticket machine at the end of that.
He pushes down he throws down.
He throws something at the ticket, and the ticket machine is just like
the shit out of it.
It's just still spitting out tickets, and that was kind of the whole. That was like the undercurrent of that, like the second half of that episode. When they realize that how screwed they are because they've got a million orders that have come in overnight, and they turn the ticket machine on, and it just keeps spitting out. They laid that under everything for the second half of the episode. Yeah. So it's just like this constant like jabbing, and like then at the end of the episode
hear it
when
too.
he finally, then they really pump it up there at the end.
Yeah.
Like when he
great.
Hits it, walks out the door, it's like that thing is still going. It doesn't matter that
but again,
everybody's gone.
My point is he walked out the door, and a lot of guys would have focus-wise just taken him out the door, and instead you pulled to the sign there, and it was just such a great.
That makes sense to me. That makes sense.
Well,
it's like that's what the
it was like they didn't follow a single rule. On that.
It was fantastic. It was great.
And the thing that's funny too is just the nature of kind of the freedom of the show, where it's like everybody's kind of like put in this box of like what we're trying to do story wise and kind of the feel and tone of everything, but at the same time like everybody gets to now work inside that box. So like this like weird creativity kind of gets unlocked, So like at the original was to us just land on the tickets. And like they're just still coming out, and that was supposed to
and
be
just let Carmi go.
Yeah, and that was supposed to be the button on the episode is that it's just like the tickets are still going out. This is not solved yet.
Did you do any takes where you did that?
Yeah, and then as we're ramping up, and I think it must have been. I think they used the 4th one. I can't remember.
Something like that.
But that 4th take, Jeremy came back and hit the ticket thing, which was never planned. So he just decided to do that. And so now I'm being like, okay, that was pretty cool. And then I'm waiting for them to yell cut while I'm just on the tickets.
Yeah.
And then he I didn't know where he was. And then I just see him in the background coming around the corner. And I was like, I guess I'll just follow him. And then Matt just stayed with him. And that was like all just on the fly.
But I'll tell you, you guys aren't going to say that, but that's because you are both excellent storytellers, and so in the moment you know where it is and you know where to go, and that's such a better way to end that shot in that episode than on the tickets.
Well, and it's just funny because, as much as you try to be a storyteller, like you have to kind of just do it on the fly.
Yeah.
So like as much as like there is the trust that you get from everybody, that's up at the monitor watching and putting this all on it together, you also have to trust yourself that you're going to do the right thing, and on the last minute or second or whatever, you know what I mean?
But I think also we've talked about it before, like commitment is a huge part of this, right? Like if you falter and you're like, maybe I should go, you're done. But if you're going, you're going, and if you're stopping, you're stopping, and if you're throwing focus, you're throwing focus.
Yeah, that was something, I don't even remember, but when talking to somebody early on when I started pulling focus, they were like, don't ever go halfway, because even going halfway is going to look worse than either actual choice you can make. So if you're going to make the choice, just do it.
Yeah.
And if they hate it, you're going to do another take. You're probably going to do another take anyways. So don't.
Well, it's like if you go halfway, you've made the wrong choice, and if you go all the way, you might have made the wrong choice, and you'll find out in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, but you go halfway, and you're guaranteed to.
That's amazing. I want to ask you about the food, because I will tell you that I generally watch the show after dinner, because if not, I have to eat like right after. So when you're working, is it just like, are you constantly hungry?
It always smells good.
Yeah.
It's always nice to walk in.
It's all real food.
It's all the set that they've built it's a real kitchen. There's working ranges and ovens and
it's hot in there.
Salamanders,
it's like
everything, fridges, everything in the kitchen works.
I'll tell you, I'm a vegetarian, and there's sometimes where I'm like, I don't know, meat looks pretty good. But do you guys get to eat stuff?
Yeah, we get spoiled a little bit. Yeah, some people probably get in there a little bit more than others. But,
Very true.
Some people are, chomping.
Some people have like a dedicated tasting spoon.
That's
maybe
correct.
I've heard
connected
this rumor. I think Gary actually
to their
might have a
equipment.
dedicated. It might even be an engraved dedicated.
Yeah, I think it
tasting
does
spoon.
have his name on it. Yeah.
Yes, one of our talented electricians, Pierce Elner, gave some.
I went to visit Gary. I went to visit Gary on set, and it hangs on the side of the wheels.
Yeah, we made a nice little
holder that you put.
Found some little camera pieces.
But so
found a way to hang his.
I admittedly was kind of scared to use it too, because I was just like it's.
But the lower caste people like you, Matt, are finger folks.
I did not get a spoon. No, I just have to.
Just like they throw it on the floor and you eat it like
we all fight for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you told me that there's 5-star Michelin chefs who are making this.
Oh yeah, there's people there that are it's kind of
insanely talented.
Yeah, it's kind of insane. It's you're. I imagine it's like what people feel like if they work on a Michael Jordan commercial or something, where it's just there's the best ever doing the thing that they're the best at.
Yeah.
And then they're just coming over and hey man, you know where the bathrooms are? And you're just you're like a normal person. Huh.
The thing that gets me is I'm not saying this in a bad way, but you meet you, Gary, and you sort of have a blue collar vibe, whatever.
This guy?
And then they'll start talking about the show, and Gary's like the bouge, all these French things that I've never heard of, and he knows what they all mean. Have you guys learned a tremendous amount about cooking and food and whatever in the process?
I was admittedly kind of a dork about it before that.
But you're a foodie now.
I was pre the bear.
You're kind of a snob, actually.
Yes. We had worked. Chris and Drew actually brought me into the world of fine dining many years ago.
Oh, so okay.
And so they ruined me about 12 years prior to the bear, where I was just And I was eating pizza by the slice. And I came home from a trip, and I was like, everything's different now.
Oh boy.
Yeah. But no, it is amazing because it's cool to work on something that you are interested in.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're working with all these incredible chefs, and obviously Maddie is there, and Coco, who is Chris's sister, who's an incredible chef. She's the culinary producer.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and then she also brought her incredible team of chefs, and just watching them work is
That's cool.
It's just one of those things where you're I would have to catch myself, because I had to start doing it where it's I need to know this for the shot. You know what I mean? But really, it was just so how long? And then you do that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah. And wait, what?
Why do you need to know this, Don?
So we've reduced now. Okay.
That's fantastic. Well, watching the show, one of the things that I really like about the show, and in a weird way, it reminds me of I did West Wing for a little bit, and West Wing had a similar thing to this. There's no, we're going to explain all this to you. There's just, we're going to, like all the food terminology and whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, there's no like new person who comes in where they're like, really? You don't know what reducing is? Well, reducing is blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you're going to have to pay attention and figure this out as the audience. And I so appreciate that. And speaking to the camera work in relation to that, one of the things, episode 7, I would say aside, which the camera work was it was much more a part of it, obviously, from what it was. The camera work is so sort of, the only word I can use is subtle, and it's like it's not in your face. And I was telling Gary the other day in episode 4 or 5 when Tina screws up. Tina makes the mashed potatoes, and she goes over to Sydney and says, all right, here, try them. You're going to hate them. And Sydney goes, no, they're great, chef. And she walks over to the oven or the stove, and she's mixing something or whatever. And she's smiling, and it's like it's a big moment for her. But you're in kind of like a 3/4 back profile of her. You're not like you're not hitting the audience over the head with that. And I'm wondering, is that a choice to do those kind of things? Because there's a lot of that.
I mean, in that moment, I think a lot of it too is just so kind of like this kind of like doc style, even though it's very cinematic, where it's like so much of it is just based off of like, here's where they have to be to work on mashed potatoes, you know? And so I could have gotten around on that in that situation, because earlier in that shot we do start around her. But I think at the end of the day, like, it was more of a kind of thing where it was like, yeah, you got this, kudos, and you passed this hurdle, but like you still have to make all these mashed potatoes. Like it is just like that personal moment where it's like, yeah, you did a good job, but like back to work. Which I think a lot of us in the film industry know, where it's just like, yeah, you get your little pat on the back, but at the end of the day, what's next? To make a West Wing
it comes
reference.
through in that. And the funny thing is, then it cuts to her turning, and it's right in front of her.
Yeah.
And she pushes in on her saying, thanks, chef. But
that's the moment where it's like, I feel like if we had tried to get around too much on her on the other side, it wouldn't have hit as much.
Exactly right. It's a button on that moment. It's so good. But there's so much. And the other thing I was thinking when I was watching it and preparing for this is like, at first I was thinking like the food is a character, but in a weird way, it's the prep is a character.
I mean, I always felt that way. It helped us a lot in terms of like, because blocking is such an integral part of what we do. And I think that it was really nice to know where it's like, well, where would you do that? And then a chef one of the real chefs in there would be like, oh, you would never do that there. You do that over here. And I was like, great.
Okay. Gotcha.
So they definitely helped us keep it not only like realistic, but also like created that, that structure for us to work off of.
Yeah, like I would say, like, not even like the prep, but like the process of it.
Yeah.
Because like there is just like naturally so much movement, in between, going down to get something out of the fridge and putting it on the counter and chopping it, turning around, moving it to the stove, turning back around to get something. Like there's such a movement
like a ballet
built
to it
into
all, right?
the way that this space actually functions, that like that plays a huge part in how the shots are created.
Okay, for sure. And then I think another big part of it that I know me and you talk about is that there is this kind of like embracing the imperfection of it all. Because like these actors are also learning a lot of this stuff as, they all put the work in, and they went to their culinary schools, and they obviously did their prep work, but at the end of the day, like, they are being told in the moment where it's like, no, you grab this, in the order of things can get confusing, and it's a lot, and you're also trying to give a performance, and that's a lot to keep in your brain.
Yeah.
And for us, it was just kind of like really, like with me and you with working with the actors, it was very much like, okay, so you're going to do this, you're going to do the salt. And then it was like, okay, and then they'd be like, then I'm going to do this. And it's like, but is it the parsley first or is it the salt first? And then it'd be like, chef, and then like you'd have to
ask the question.
Yeah, exactly. And then everybody would be on that same page. So I think like that part of like the process, like not only like the process of making food, but also the process of filmmaking, like kind of coming together, where like we did realize that we are kind of very similar.
Yeah.
As much as we are, wildly different at the same time. But, it's like that process is really what kind of brought us together. So then it was like, it's okay if you mess up. You know what I mean?
That happens.
And then it's like kind of the thing where like the camera knows where you're going.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you don't get there right away. Like, it's okay if it's not 100% perfect, because it never is.
That's great.
You know?
And the other thing that occurred to me is I usually hate cutaways. They drive me nuts. And this show is they're not cutaways. I mean, they're not cutaways at all. They're like their own elements of all these things. And even like you have this it's like a static shot of cans and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, how designed are those things? Like, do you do the episode and you go, well, this is the filler we need? Or do you have stock stuff? Or
Matt?
Chris Dame, our B camera operator, is the king of capturing every tiny detail, every moment in every set that we get into.
It's incredible.
Really?
A lot of times it works as a one camera show. And so Chris is, every place we go, anytime they redress the sets that we're working on, he is in there like scoping out anything that's new, anything that's interesting, anything that could be interesting, and he captures all of that stuff.
To the point where if someone accidentally spills something that has nothing to do with what we're doing, he'll just be like, don't clean that up, and he'll come and shoot it. You know what I mean? And it's
one of the best examples, I think, is when the episode, the flashback episode from last year, the fishes.
Yeah.
We went into that house and they had dressed it.
Oh, all the tchotchkes.
Yeah, like an insane person's Christmas house.
He just loses his mind.
And so
Chris, oh my God, he made his own movie.
Yeah, he literally. I mean, he went in that. He shot every single piece of set dressing in that house.
So you guys are off in some other room doing some major scene, and he's just.
And even like even when we're doing 2 camera scenes, it's like, we move to a new setup, and Chris is like, "Hey, come here. We gotta get this real quick.
Yeah.
I just saw this upstairs. Come, let's bring the camera real quick."
So great.
And
he's responsible for a lot of 1,000-yard stares around set, because they're just like, he's still shooting.
Yeah. and it's
waiting for the food to drop off the can or something.
Yeah, and then he's also definitely the guy that was like, I'll have a piece.
Yeah. But I mean, I think it's a testament too to like the art direction and the set decoration on that show, because every single piece, they know every single thing that they put in that house could potentially be shot. So there's no like, oh, that's good enough or whatever. They're in there making everything on that set look perfect.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like the sentiment that we had for the Oneer, where it is like that thing where it's like, you got to be held you're accountable, because you can't be the one that misses it. Like, I think that kind of culture permeated throughout all of production.
Gotcha.
Where everybody started feeling that way, where it was just like, oh, well, like, how can I level up? How can we make this better? And everybody coming from that kind of approach, it's funny how it just kind of ends up working out. Like, you kind of put yourself in this position to get lucky, where I think a lot of the things that has been kind of planned, like, ends up being maybe something a little bit different, but it's like, oh, well, that's what it should be.
Yeah.
And then once you see it, it's like, oh, that's undeniable.
There are those moments where it's like, oh, we got lucky, but we got lucky because
the work was done beforehand.
So prepared.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything was ready.
I don't think you guys get lucky at all. I think you're all good. I mean, luck is some of it, but it's knowing it. It's being able to know when you get lucky that this is good. That's the thing, and that's talent right there. One of the things that I love about the show, which I think some of it has to do with you guys, but some of it comes from up high, is there's no fat. It's like, it's just, I mean, and I think I was telling you, one of my favorite moments, I mean, I almost gasped, was when the first time you find out that Sydney is taking all those medications, and it was just opening the medicine cabinet, and there's all these medications she takes right out, and she closes it, and that's it. There's like no explanation. But as an audience member, and I think the camera work, but what both of you are doing, reflects that. It's not we have to like see everything all the time. It's we're going to focus on him because she's yelling at him, and it's about him. And is that always in the back of your mind? Just keep it simple, keep it simple, keep it simple.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of that comes from Chris, and it's just he says simple storytelling a lot on set.
It comes through.
Because I think that there is, at least from my point of view, and having worked with him and done that for so long now, like, there's like a lot of complexity in simplicity, and there's a lot, and like sometimes that stuff seems far more like technically wild than it actually is. And I think it's just because, this is it. This is all you need to see. And now you can let your imagination run and that's more impactful than us being like, here's the insert on what she's taking.
Exactly.
It's like,
yeah.
you don't need to know that.
You don't.
You learn what you need to learn about her in that moment, and that's enough. And then it makes her a much, I think Chris knows that the characters and the show benefit from just the simplicity of that. And then it becomes more complex because now people are left to their own conclusions. They're left to how they relate to it or whatever. And then, you're not showing your hand too much.
Well, it also, I think, it makes you as a viewer an active participant, because if you're not, you're never going to figure out what's going on. Like, you have to actually stay engaged, which is great.
Yeah.
And I think we were also too, like, so much, we do a lot of slick kind of camera stuff in the show, and it's like it always has to be justified.
Yeah.
Like we're not. It's cool for cool sake is like the worst thing.
Nope.
I remember talking to Jeremy about the first Wonder, where like it was like, we got to make sure it's not that.
It's not about the camera.
Yeah,
It's about,
yeah.
There's a reason for it.
Like you shouldn't notice it.
Well, I don't know if you remember, but after I called you, because I was like, this isn't just a Wonder. The thing that I said, and I still have seen it since, that was, I think, is the best way to tell that story. Like if that episode had been cut into pieces and coverage and whatever, it just would not have the immediacy that it has. So it wasn't a gimmick. It actually was.
When the first season came out, I think they put it out like at midnight, on the day of it was released. I stayed up, and the first thing I did was watch episode 7.
Oh, really?
And I just watched it all the way through, and then I went to bed. I was like, all right, it looks good. Yeah. And then I went back. I don't know, a few months later probably, I was like, I'm going to watch it again. And then I started watching it, and they started putting commercials in it, like on Hulu. I guess, for like the first month or something,
that's just
they
because
show
you're paying
it commercial free.
$5.99 instead of $7.99.
Yeah.
Come on,
So I started watching it again, and a commercial came up. I was
That's
like,
horrible.
what the fuck? And it was like the worst experience I could have possibly imagined in watching that episode.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, well. It's above our pay grade.
There you go. Tell me about the actors. What about working with the actors? I mean, this seems like watching them, I want to think, that they're some of the coolest people, and just they're so talented.
Yeah, that's all true. They're the nicest, like most, thoughtful, just,
Prepared.
Prepared, I mean, it's...
And just like now, like, I don't know, I'm always impressed. Like Jeremy is like so, and I mean, he's kind of grown up in television series, but I mean, like, you don't even have to ask him to do something. Like I think just towards the end of the season, when we were on the boat, and you were like, "Hey, Jeremy, can you?" And he's like, "Oh, do you want me to just like move like this so you can see what I'm doing?" And you're like, "Yeah, cool." And like, he knows what you're looking for. He knows what the camera's looking for.
It's great.
And
he had like, I don't know, I think it was episode 3 or episode 4. You're out on the beach and you're behind him at sunset, and you come around and you come into this close up of him. And actually, one of the things that I love was you came around in this close up of him, and you just stop as the flare came into the right hand side of the frame and held it. And I was like, that's so beautiful.
That was Drew. It was like, hey man, keep that flare in, would you?
Yeah, it was. My wife always knows when I'm watching The Bear, because she's like, "Why do you keep on screaming, 'I hate you, Gary'?" It's a very complicated story, but it's these moments where I'm like, maybe I could just break the knee and I could get that job. But
too tall.
Just do it at work. Just do it at work. Make it look like an
The
accident.
Bear this season seems much taller, but otherwise. But no, it holds on that close up of him for a while, and he's just one of those actors that you could just watch a close up. And there's stuff going on.
There's just a million things going
so
on behind his eyes.
to watch, but they're also
They all,
like that.
for sure, and and that's the one thing that I think is really cool about the writing on the show and just the storytelling nature of it is that all those actors have over the time really been given their spotlight, their character,
Totally.
and like they have such like rewarding arcs, and their performances are so human, but their stories are so human too. And I think that it's just such a beautiful thing to watch them bring those things to life. And no better. There's obviously everybody has their examples of it, but the Al-Anon speech in season 1 from Jeremy, where it's like, it was just a 7-minute close-up, and it's incredible.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I will never do anything as good as he did that speech.
It's incredible. It was only interrupted in my house by the "I hate you, Gary" every couple of minutes, because you got to. But when you're standing, that wasn't handheld. That was
on a dolly. Yeah.
But when you're sitting there 4 feet away from this guy giving that speech. How does, I mean, is it just unbelievable?
I think that a lot of the time, I mean, yeah, it is wild. I mean, there's definitely times where you get caught watching TV, for sure. I mean, and luckily for me, I didn't have to do much on that shot. But no, I mean, he's, I remember him saying too, he's like, we're going to cover this, right? And we're like, yeah, for sure. We're going to do sizes. And we went over to Chris. He's like, no way are we covering this.
Does that happen a lot where it's, I mean, that's a different thing, but where you've got 4 people in a scene and you shoot something and you're like,
yeah,
we're moving on. We got it.
No, yeah, that does happen a lot. I think that if Chris finds that it works, like there is that kind of moment where he's like, maybe we could, do we need that?
Yeah.
It's like that comes up a lot. And sometimes we decide we do, sometimes we decide we don't. I think it's just kind of in the moment thing. But he's certainly not afraid of it,
Well, clearly from episode 7, he's not. And because I have to ask you about her, because she's one of my favorite people, and just so I'm saying it, she promised to be on this podcast and hasn't yet.
I bet I know
you got
what
to
you're
work
gonna
with
say.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, she's the best.
She's the best,
yeah,
right?
I mean.
How was that? And by the way, like, how much fun to watch her play that character?
Oh,
It was insane.
yeah. I mean,
Some of her first moments on set, like some of the first stuff that we shot was her in the kitchen, just like getting things ready. When she takes the butter,
just by her
and
hand.
just scoops it in her hand and smears it on the bread. I think all of us looking at a monitor were like, okay, what's she doing? And she's doing that. Oh, God. Is she going to do that every time?
Well, and I mean, she is just a tremendous performer, and she is all in. And
She's all in.
Yeah, and I don't think I met Jamie Lee until like day 5. I only met Donna Berzatto up
She
until
showed
then.
up
Yeah.
ready.
That's hilarious. And then, by the way, when you meet her, you're like, you're the most amazing person.
Oh, she's just the sweetest person, and she's like, she's getting everybody gifts. She's giving baby books to crew members she just met because she's like, you know what I mean? Oh, you're having a baby? Oh, these are my favorites. Like, she's just the sweetest person.
She's great. Just so she can hear it, does everybody in the audience want Jamie Lee Curtis on the? I'm not trying to put any pressure on you, Jamie. No, we actually, every once in a while I contact her and she's like, I'm so sorry, I'm not available, but it'll happen eventually.
The one thing I will say too, the actors and just off of her as well is that like so much, I mean, I know we're a comedy, don't forget, it's comedy. But it's so emotional, and some of these things that these actors put themselves through for these performances is very personal, and and the last thing you want is me right next to you while you're doing it.
Yeah.
And they're just like so comfortable in their profession and in their skill set that they like, you're always kind of on that line where it's like, am I too close? Do you need me to blah blah blah, whatever? And we're cross shooting a lot where it's like two people talking and then the camera operator and a camera operator right next to them. And they're just so nice about like accommodating you as you accommodate them, and then like everybody starts to feel like everybody's a part of it. And then I'm caught like doing a piece of coverage and then like looking out my left eye at Jamie Lee Curtis, who's right here, who's like
right next to you,
bawling her eyes out telling some story, and you're just like, I don't know which one to watch.
Yeah. And then you want to put your arm around them. I mean, do you think that you disappear to them, or do you think that they use you?
I don't know. I think it's probably a little bit of both.
Yeah,
I think that we're kind of like a crutch at the same time as we are trying not to be there. Like we're there if they want us there, but we don't engage them unless they engage us, kind of thing. Yeah. So I think it's more of just knowing that you're there for them, but you're not there. You're not in their way, but you're there to help.
I got one quick question, and then we're probably going to have to wrap up. You guys do manageable days. You actually do insanely manageable days. What are your average hours like?
I mean, this past season, I feel like we wrapped before or at lunch more often than we didn't.
Yeah, for sure.
And what do you?
I did a 6-day where I didn't get 50 hours.
Wow.
I had, I think more than one check that was 40 hours.
And is that just because they're prepared and you're on top? I mean, you can't make a show on that.
A lot of it. I think, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I think a lot of it comes from the top down. I think, Chris, I think it helps, having that producer, director, creator, all in one person who's there to steer the ship. But he comes in unbelievably prepared and ready to work every single day, and like he doesn't want to waste his own time.
Nope.
He will not waste anybody else's time, and there is no one more for safety. There's no what if we did a
He's already gone.
And it's also like we don't need an over and a single and an over and a single and an over.
We
and a
don't need to
single and a
hose this
master.
thing down.
We're just going to tell the story.
Yeah, and I mean, and you'll bring that stuff up, and he'll go, "Nope, don't need it," and you're like, "Okay, that's it."
Right.
And especially when you've got, it's a whole body thing.
Yeah.
When he's that prepared, we have to be that prepared. Like, I'm in the first season, we, as like the first and seconds and utility had a pre-call and nobody else did in our department. And it became very clear very quickly that like Gary and Chris and Drew, we needed everybody there at least a half hour before, because Chris was ready to go.
Hit the ground
an
running.
hour before.
Yeah.
You would be
So,
hearing
like,
the
if they're
first
not
shot
there-
from the key grip.
Yeah. And so, we petitioned hard to get everybody there
Yeah.
with a pre-call so that when call time hit, we could be shooting within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And it all flows down like that. And so
Yeah.
he's prepared, we need to be prepared, and it makes a huge difference too when you know that there's the possibility of going home at lunch.
Sure.
When it's not like, oh, hey, we finished finished the call sheet. Why don't we pull up scenes from tomorrow?
Yeah.
There is none of that.
Well, you step up your game, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
You're like, no, we know
Totally.
what we're trying to do. We're making good stuff. We're going to do it in a manageable thing and have a life. And let's
Yeah, and just off of that, I think that I've heard Chris say it before. I know you have too. Or it's like we don't go fast so we can go home early. We go fast because the show's good.
Yeah.
It makes the show good.
Yeah.
And I think that just comes from like the every second counts kind of what's in
the show is.
what's in the kitchen. I
Yeah.
think that
great.
comes into what we do as well. So it is like, hey, like don't be wasting anybody's time.
But the reason I bring it up is because I just want to put it out there. It is possible to have a show that's incredible and a hit,
Yep.
and have a crew that's safe and has a life.
Yeah.
And
It is. Very much.
I think that's a good thing. I could ask you guys questions for another hour, which I will afterwards, but I think we got to wrap it up. I'm going to say a thank you and then leave you guys with a question that you can take us out on. Just want to thank Cinecity Studios Chicago, and of course Flilmscape, and of course our folks here in the audience and our folks out there in the web, and the op.io. Check out Gary's breakdown. Check out all the breakdowns. Send me emails on what you want to see, and we'll try to get it out there. And of course the podcast on Apple and Spotify. I'll leave this with you guys. Maybe we'll go Gary first, and then Matt, you can take us out. Someone getting into the business now. You 20 years ago, something you wish you knew. How do you succeed in this business? What do you need to know?
Oh,
Go ahead.
just that. That's you asked me not to say what I said last time, and I don't know if I remember what I said
Last time is Gary's podcast, which hasn't come out yet, so you can say that again.
I think for me, at the end of the day, it's just like it's work. That's kind of how I've always thought about it. And it's not like a career or a job or whatever. So like it never ends. The work never ends. So that I think is kind of the beauty of our business, where it's just keep getting better. I think it just every day just get a little bit better than you were the day before. Learn something new, get better at something you already knew. And if you just kind of take that attitude, that just adds up after a while. And then people can see that, you can be trusted.
Yeah, I think my answer kind of dovetails in with that, where I would say just, you got to show up every day. You got to show up and be prepared and know what you're doing. And, I'm always a big proponent of just like gathering as much information as you can about the day so you can have answers when people are looking for them, and, know what you're moving on to next so you can be proactive or helpful when that moment comes. Because I think, I don't know, speaking for myself at least, like I remember that. I remember, the person who shows up and is like an active participant, as opposed to somebody who's just kind of like leaning back and, aloof and appearing uninterested, even though they might be. But I think, yeah, you show up and engage. All right.
I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. We'll be back soon with another great episode. Don't forget to check us out on the op.io for all sorts of information on operating and storytelling. So thanks for listening and have a great day.